Downstairs in the newly opened apartment complex, a specialty noodle shop opened. The landlady made noodles that were not only delicious and cheap, but most importantly, she had a daughter who liked to wear white silk stockings, which was very eye-catching. Therefore, as soon as the shop opened, I became a regular customer here, eating consecutively for 3 months. That was until my younger cousin opened a new shop right opposite, and didn't forget to call me over to support her. But as soon as I sat down, a tall figure stepped out from the noodle shop opposite. The other person looked at me resentfully. Does her shop also let customers touch thighs? My cousin had a boyfriend, whom she had loved for many years. When they were about to get engaged, the two argued, and the guy eventually chose to disappear to avoid her. Coincidentally, however, he lived in the same apartment complex as me. To get back with her boyfriend, Bak and Gung Bang thought it over, and decided to open a noodle shop downstairs in my apartment building to create more chances to bump into him. I just considered this as the fun of young lovers. Besides, as her older cousin, I naturally couldn't miss out on supporting her. It's just that I didn't expect the location of the shop. She opened to be directly facing the noodle shop I frequented, so much so that when I walked into my cousin's shop, I felt somewhat guilty. After all, I had eaten at the opposite noodle shop 3 meals a day without missing a single one for 3 whole months. The other party also often gave me free side dishes and all kinds of perks. The landlady and I had established a deep bond. Now, changing eating spots made me feel wrong, as if I were betraying them, but I didn't think much about it, and just walked into my cousin's noodle shop, hearing the welcome greeting from the automatic device at the door. Right after that, I saw Bak and Gung Bang rushing out of the kitchen, soaking wet. It was hot, and she was only wearing a thin, transparent white t-shirt, now completely wet. The shirt clung tightly to her body, forming a thin, transparent film. The lace trim on her chest was faintly visible. Seeing me arrive, she immediately told me to sit down. A water pipe in the kitchen had broken, spraying water all over her. The plumber had just finished fixing it. You're right on time. Let me cook some noodles for you first, and I'll go upstairs to change my clothes later. She mumbled to herself, and then ducked back into the kitchen. Our two families had been close since childhood and grew up together, so my cousin knew my preferences like the back of her hand. Without me saying a word, she knew exactly what kind of noodles I liked. I sat waiting at the dining table, resting my chin on one hand, habitually looking towards the opposite noodle shop, wondering if she was there today. While lost in thought, my view was suddenly blocked by a shadow. Next, a slender, tall figure stepped into the shop's door. Lu Nhu Yen, why are you here? Seeing clearly the person who had just arrived, a wave of guilt suddenly surged in my heart. After all, I had been eating noodles at her house recently, and being caught red-handed here now was indeed quite awkward. Her expression remained as usual, her peach blossom eyes staring fixedly at me. My mom said you were late today and worried that something had happened to you, so she told me to wait for you at the shop's door. As if remembering something, she frowned slightly, paused for a moment, and then continued. Then I saw you acting like a thief, coming out of the apartment building and ducking straight into this newly opened noodle shop. You didn't even dare to turn your head to look at me once. After speaking, she glanced around my cousin's noodle shop, still keeping that cold demeanor. When this shop was under renovation, my mom came over to chat a bit and heard that the female owner just graduated from college and has a great figure. Right? I nodded. Bak and Gung Bang had indeed just graduated from college. Being a dance student, her figure was indeed very perfect. However, wasn't her focus a bit skewed? Could it be that she treated me coldly because the person she liked wasn't a man at all? A wave of despair suddenly surged in my heart. But before I could speak, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly changed her previous cold demeanor, looking at me resentfully. Does her shop also let customers touch thighs? Lu Nhu Yen, the precious daughter of the landlady of the noodle shop next door, was extremely beautiful, but her temperament was quite cold. Even though we had known each other for 3 months, I rarely saw her smile, and her words were pitifully few. Many times, while eating, I would use some cheesy pickup lines to tease her, but most of the time, Lu Nhu Yen remained silent. Occasionally, a few times, she would sit down opposite me and ask what exactly I needed to do to shut my mouth. She found it noisy. In this regard, my cousin and I were very similar, both carrying the gene of a simp. So I chuckled. Come on, just tell me your name. At first, I only wanted to know her name, but later I wanted to know her measurements, personal hobbies, and most importantly, her relationship status. After knowing she was still single, I was so happy I could cry, pouring out a whole basket of pickup lines. But she still didn't care at all. This made me feel a profound sense of failure, sometimes even wanting to give up the idea of flirting. As for the thigh-touching incident she mentioned, it was completely an unexpected accident. That day, I was having lunch at her family's noodle shop, when suddenly, a crazy woman walked in and rushed straight towards me. While I was bewildered, she lunged forward, grabbed my hand, and pressed it onto her thigh. The hairy thigh was covered with a bunch of red pimples. She laughed disgustingly, pressing my hand tightly against her thigh. "Young man, you probably haven't known the scent of a woman yet, right? Let big sister let you have a feel." Immediately, she was chased away by Lu Nhu Yen, holding a rolling pin. After that, the landlady also called the police and handed that mentally ill woman over to them. Lu Nhu Yen then led me to wash my hands. The disgusting feeling in my heart made me keep using soap to scrub my hands continuously. While scrubbing, I said, "So disgusting, this hand is probably ruined." At that moment, I wanted to cry but had no tears. Meanwhile, Lu Nhu Yen, who had been standing silently next to me all along, suddenly grabbed my wrist and pressed my hand onto her fair thigh. She was wearing denim shorts. She asked me if I still felt nauseous. I shook my head vigorously. How should I describe it? It was soft, smooth, and very elastic. At that moment, I completely forgot the helplessness of being harmed by that crazy woman, and tremblingly reached out my remaining left hand, trying to hold back my drool, looking at Lu Nhu Yen with a face full of expectation. This hand was also grabbed by her just now. After that, Lu Nhu Yen told me to get lost. She said she was afraid she couldn't control herself from beating up a hooligan like me. Then I leaned my face close to her. "Just hit me lightly, and it'll be fine." After that, the look in her eyes towards me became even more terrified. A few days later, I still went to her shop to eat noodles as usual. Probably because of the previous incident, the landlady felt guilty towards me, so every time she gave me a very large portion. Moreover, as long as Lu Nhu Yen was present, she always asked her to hold the rolling pin and sit opposite me to protect the safety of the customer, which was me. Eating noodles while admiring a beauty really made me eat too much, harming me. In just a mere week, I had gained up to 4 kilograms. After that incident, I also brought it up again, saying that my other hand still hadn't been fully purified, and asked if I could apply to touch her thigh one more time. Lu Nhu Yen looked at me with a half smile. "Sure, do it yourself. That's so embarrassing. Hee hee." I immediately put down my bowl and chopsticks, excitedly placing my small hand on her thigh, and even gave it a light squeeze. She frowned, looking a bit like she couldn't bear to watch, but didn't push my hand away either, as if both sides had a tacit understanding. From then on, I frequently tested the waters, but she didn't agree every time. Usually, she only let me touch twice a week, just enough to slightly relieve my craving. Therefore, at this moment, hearing Lu Nhu Yen say that sentence, a good idea suddenly popped into my head. I had interacted with my cousin's boyfriend before. He looked radiant and handsome. His personality was also outgoing. And most importantly, he was exactly like me in that he really loved female beauty. But because he already had a girlfriend, at most he only dared to sneakily glance at girls on the street. So, the simplest way for my cousin to coax him out of his anger wasn't it to directly use her beauty to seduce him. But I also understood my cousin very well. She was not kind-hearted, and her brain only had one wrinkle. She definitely had never thought of making her boyfriend happy this way. Oh well, who told me to be her older cousin? I planned to teach her a little bit, perhaps seeing that I didn't answer for a long time. Lu Nhu Yen frowned and couldn't help but ask further. "Is it that hard to answer?" I hurriedly shook my head. No, am I that kind of person? But before I could finish my sentence, Bak and Gung Bang brought out a bowl of piping hot noodles from the kitchen. Her previous clothes were already soaking wet, and the kitchen was hot, so this time stepping out, she took off the t-shirt on top. She was only wearing a cooking apron. If this happened to someone else, they would definitely think to themselves, are there such good things in this world? Eating noodles and getting extra perks on top of that. But I definitely didn't think so, because she was my cousin, no different from a biological sister. Furthermore, she already had a boyfriend, and needed to maintain her female virtues. So I immediately spoke up. "Hurry inside and put your shirt back on properly. Don't let others see." Bak and Gung Bang placed the bowl of noodles in front of me, reached out to wipe a fragrant drop of sweat on her forehead, and laughed carelessly. "It's fine, I'm not showing it to anyone else anyway." Next, she pointed at a spot of grease that accidentally splashed onto her thigh. The surrounding fair skin was slightly red. "I have to wear it, otherwise the hot grease splashing on my body hurts a lot." I hurriedly pulled out a tissue and handed it to her. The next second, I heard a resentful voice from behind. "You really care about her, don't you?" I nodded without hesitation. Could I not care? We're cousins who grew up together. I have to act somewhat like an older brother. "Right. All right, Lu." I was just about to turn my head, and introduce my cousin to Lu Nhu Yen. But as a result, just as I turned my face, I saw Lu Nhu Yen maintaining a cold face, turning her back and walking away. Without any reluctance, I didn't find anything unusual either, because previously at her family's shop, she rarely paid attention to me anyway. Sometimes when I flirted too much, she would hurriedly turn her back and walk away, extremely cold. Looking at her back, Bakeng Bang looked thoughtful. Brother Coaxing, don't tell me this is the cold goddess that you've been simping over and pursuing for 3 months, but still haven't succeeded. I put my hands behind my neck, acting like an expert, and said, you don't understand. She is truly extremely top tier. Her face is top tier. I just don't know if other parts are as top tier. I'm dying of curiosity. After finishing the bowl of noodles, I didn't stay long and planned to go straight home. My cousin's noodle shop didn't have a bathroom. If she wanted to take a shower, she had to close the shop and go home. But this back and forth process would take 2 hours, so she suggested coming to my place to use the shower first. I'm also looking for a place right now, planning to rent an apartment in this complex too. After speaking, she suddenly became shy. Just thinking about living in the same apartment complex with him makes me feel so shy. Hearing her say that, I was just speechless. My cousin and her boyfriend had been in love for many years, had considered marriage, and had also met both sets of parents. Therefore, the guy's family had suggested living together for a period of time to see how it goes. As a result, Bakeng Bang refused, saying she felt shy, and that guy was also a true gentleman. He actively suggested living together, and upon being rejected, it wasn't convenient to bring it up again. The consequence was that the path of coaxing her boyfriend was now full of thorns, because she had completely dodged the most correct answer. After finishing the bowl of noodles, I walked straight out of the shop, but Bakeng Bang still had to wait a bit. She had to wash the dishes and then close the shop, probably taking more than 10 minutes longer. But as soon as I stepped outside, I saw Lu Nhu Yen standing in front of her family's noodle shop. Seeing me appear, she quickly walked over. Before, the average time you took to eat noodles was 1 hour. Why did it take you more than 2 hours to eat today? Were you having a very happy conversation with her? I nodded. Indeed, the conversation was very fun, so I didn't notice the time. While eating, my cousin kept gossiping about our family. As a person, besides loving beauty, I like gossiping the most. My aunt and uncle are level 10 intelligence gathering experts. Therefore, Bakeng Bang also knows many earth-shattering secrets of our lineage. She isn't very interested, but she knows I like it. So while I was eating, she brought them out to tell me. The love scandals in our hometown are truly too many and too shocking, causing a meal to drag on for more than 2 hours. Seeing me nod, Lu Nhu Yen pursed her lips, looking not very happy. But normally, she often had this expression anyway, so it didn't look much different. Next, she asked again, so tonight you're planning to go over to her place to eat again? I nodded again. I have no choice. The drama still isn't finished. My cousin even intentionally left a story unfinished to lure me into coming over to support her again. So tonight I'll have to go to her shop to eat for the sake of catching up on the drama. Lu Nhu Yen's face became even colder. I just thought she was afraid of losing a generous customer like me. So I patted my chest and assured her, don't worry, the noodles auntie makes are both delicious and cheap. Still the #1 choice in my heart. Going to the opposite shop to eat is just looking for a bit of novelty. Novelty? Lu Nhu Yen suddenly interrupted me with a half-smile. Is the noodle novel or is the person novel? I didn't quite understand this sentence, just as I was about to embrace an attitude of not hiding my ignorance to ask for advice. Lu Nhu Yen opened her mouth again and asked, does her thigh feel good to touch? It's all right. When we were young, Bakeng Bang and I used to fight a lot. She wasn't as strong as me, so she always played sneak attacks, just pinching and scratching me, so I had also grabbed her thigh a few times. The touch wasn't bad either, but I hadn't forgotten that I was currently the one pursuing Lu Nhu Yen, so I hurriedly opened my mouth and said, but don't worry, her thigh absolutely doesn't feel as good to touch as yours. Lu Nhu Yen smirked, making it difficult for you, even making a whole comparison for me too. Of course. I patted my chest, glancing towards my apartment building from the corner of my eye, and began to put out feelers. The noodle shop is quiet today. Auntie can handle it alone. Do you want to come to my house to watch a movie? Recently, I just found an extremely good horror movie. Since I was little, I've had a lot of guts and really liked watching all kinds of horror movies. Many friends who watched with me would scream in terror. If I watched with Lu Nhu Yen, she would definitely be scared too, and then she would dive straight into my arms. And after that, restrain your drool. Lu Nhu Yen suddenly spoke up, interrupting my fantasy. I blinked, looking at her, not giving up on my intention, and asked one more sentence. Are you really not coming? That horror movie is really great. She shook her head, still coldly, not going. After speaking, she abruptly turned her head and walked straight into her family's shop, without any lingering attachment. Meanwhile, my silly cousin had finished cleaning up at this point, closed the shop, and ran with long strides towards me, drawing out her voice as she walked. Watching a horror movie. Let's go, let's go. I'll go to your house and watch it with you. But I have to take a shower at your house first. As soon as the words left her mouth, Lu Nhu Yen's footsteps not far away suddenly halted. But I didn't notice this small action of hers at all. Just nodded and said to my cousin, sure. Coincidentally, I still have some snacks and beer at home. When the time comes, we can eat and watch at the same time. The moment I finished speaking, Lu Nhu Yen, who was about to leave, immediately spun around and walked towards this direction. She pursed her lips, still maintaining that cold demeanor. You're planning to let her go to your house to watch a horror movie, and even planning to drink beer with her. This was a small hobby of mine. Just watching a horror movie alone is a bit boring. Not to mention, I don't get drunk from drinking beer either. Eating, drinking, and watching a movie at the same time is obviously much more comfortable. So I nodded again. That's right. Is there a problem? I don't know if it was my hallucination, but I kept feeling that after I finished saying this sentence. Lu Nhu Yen's face became even colder. But before I could take a good look, Lu Nhu Yen dropped a sentence, whatever you want, and walked straight away. She walked too fast. I originally planned to chase after her, but I was afraid that clinging too tightly would make her feel antipathy. After all, the internet says that pursuing girls requires knowing how to play hard to get. So I suppressed the impulsiveness in my heart and called my cousin, who was standing beside me, to go upstairs to watch a horror movie. Bok and Gung Bang planned to take a shower first, hugging a pile of clothes to change into and walking into the guest bathroom, while I stayed in the living room to prepare snacks, beer, and find a suitable horror movie. But before I could finish finding a movie, the doorbell suddenly rang. I went to open the door and saw Lu Nhu Yen standing in front of my house. She was holding a portion of noodles in her hand. This is a new dish my mom just invented. Mom said you're a regular customer, so no matter what, you must be the first to taste it. She pursed her lips, looking a bit unwilling. It's not that I wanted to come. It's my mom who forced me to come. Auntie Lu indeed always treated me very well. Every time she researched a new dish, she would definitely invite me to enjoy it first. Therefore, I didn't find this explanation of hers unusual at all, and happily accepted the portion of noodles. I asked one more sentence. Do you want to come into my house to watch a horror movie? As expected, she completely refused, even turning her head, preparing to leave right away. Just not knowing what she thought of, she turned her head to look at me again. I seemed to hear the sound of running water. Bok and Gung Bang is taking a shower. I pointed towards the guest bathroom. Lu Nhu Yen's brows furrowed even tighter. Ko and Gon, have you really thought this through? Thought what through? I didn't quite understand the meaning of her sentence. Lu Nhu Yen closed her eyes, took a deep breath, seemingly suppressing something, and slowly opened her mouth. Are you really planning to let her watch a horror movie at your house? There's no other way. Who told you not to come? I spread my hands, pretending to be regretful. As a result, right at this moment, Bok and Gung Bang walked out of the bathroom. She was wearing a simple-style short nightgown, lazily swaggering out into the living room. She casually opened a bottle of beer and tilted her head back to take a large gulp. Probably hearing the noise, she turned her head to look towards the door. Hi, I know you. You're the daughter of the landlady of the opposite noodle shop. Lu Nhu Yen. Lu Nhu Yen gave an I also know your name. Bok and Gung Bang. Next, Bok and Gung Bang didn't say anything more to her, but waved at me. Brother Ko and Gon, hurry over here. The horror movie is about to start. If you're so busy, I won't bother you anymore. Lu Nhu Yen didn't give me a chance to speak. After my cousin finished that sentence, she immediately turned her back and walked away. I was extremely regretful that I couldn't grasp such a good opportunity. If I could have kept her to stay and watch some horror movies, drink some wine, who knows? I might have been able to admire her other top-tier features. Retract your drool right now. Bok and Gung Bang's voice suddenly rang out, cutting off my delusions. This made me very annoyed, so I took a slipper and threw it straight at her head. The girl yelped, holding her head and looking at me. Why are you still so violent? Ko and Gon, when you need something, you call me brother. When you don't, you call me by my full name. If I had known, I would have beaten you up a few more times when we were young. She said again, you live alone. How dare you let strangers know your apartment number? Aren't you afraid people will break into your house to steal or something? I smiled on the outside, but not on the inside. Sprawling on the sofa, then I would wish for nothing more. Before, I hinted at it time and time again, but she just absolutely refused to come looking for me. We agreed clearly that we would only watch a horror movie, and I absolutely wouldn't lay a hand on her, but she just didn't believe it. Am I such an untrustworthy person? The next second, I saw the horrified look in my cousin's eyes. But before she could speak, the doorbell rang again. Bakeng Bang reluctantly ran to open it. Nhu Yen, why are you here again? I hurriedly looked over and saw Lu Nhu Yen holding a portion of noodles. Standing in front of the door, there were still a few drops of sweat dotting her forehead. Although the weather recently wasn't too hot, it was probably due to the fatigue of climbing the stairs. Lu Nhu Yen spoke up. This is the second new dish my mom just invented. Mom told me to bring it over for you to taste again. I hurriedly thanked her, just hesitating a bit. But how can one person eat all this? Auntie Lu was truly too enthusiastic. But even though I was a glutton, in a situation where I had already finished lunch, I truly couldn't stuff down 2 more portions of noodles. But my silly, sweet cousin didn't feel embarrassed at all. She directly took the bag from her hand, smiling like a fool. Hee, brother said it's okay. If you can't finish it, I will. I don't mind you anyway. For some reason, I suddenly felt a wave of chills. Looking up at Lu Nhu Yen, I didn't see anything unusual. She just raised her eyes to look at me faintly, then without saying another word, turned her back and left. Bakeng Bang brought the noodles and sat back down on the sofa, opening both portions to taste a little bit. The taste was no different. Just one bowl was slightly spicier, one bowl was slightly blander. Just as I was about to continue watching the horror movie with my cousin, the doorbell rang once again. I and Bakeng Bang looked at each other, then walked to the door together. Opening the door, it was indeed Lu Nhu Yen again. She was still carrying a portion of noodles in her hand. This is my mom. Did Auntie invent a third new noodle dish? I directly spoke the latter half of her sentence for her. Lu Nhu Yen gave an and handed the bowl of noodles to me. Looking at the drops of sweat on her forehead, drop by drop falling down, sliding from her forehead down to her chin, then from her chin rolling down her fair neck, finally quietly slipping into her collar. This sight made me gulp down saliva, so I didn't give up and asked one more sentence. You see, the 2 of us siblings truly can't finish 3 portions of noodles. How about you do a good deed? Stay and watch a horror movie with us, and incidentally help us handle 1 portion. I originally thought Lu Nhu Yen would still refuse this time, but she just pondered slightly, then stepped straight inside, saying as she walked, sure, my mom put her heart into researching this new noodle dish. I also don't want it to be wasted, so she agreed to stay and watch the horror movie with me. At this moment, looking at Bakeng Bang, no matter how I looked at it, she was a third wheel, an obstacle. Originally, my cousin and I sat next to each other, with an empty seat beside her. It wasn't that I wanted to play hard to get. On the contrary, I wished I could let her sit right next to me. It would be best to sit right on my lap, but I was afraid of being too aggressive and scaring her away. So I had to take it slow. Who would have expected that Lu Nhu Yen, without saying a word, squeezed right in between my cousin and me, then forcefully widened that tiny gap and plopped down, sitting super close. I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. I tried to suppress the wild joy in my heart, afraid that showing too much perversion would scare Lu Nhu Yen away. Taking a deep breath, I then clicked to start the horror movie. The movie I chose was a hardcore horror genre. After not even a few minutes, my cousin was already screaming in terror, scared to the point that her whole body almost dove into Lu Nhu Yen's arms. At this point, I realized my miscalculation. If I had known, I would have pretended to be scared and dove into her arms first. But Lu Nhu Yen seemed to not like others touching her. So as soon as my cousin got close, she leaned close towards me, her eyes showing obvious disgust. Even though my cousin's brain only had 1 wrinkle, she still knew how to read the room. Knowing the other party was disgusted by her, she decisively stood up, wrapped herself in the air-conditioning blanket, and sat on the other side of me. As a result, right after she sat down, a terrifying female ghost suddenly jumped out on the TV. Pressing close to the screen, my cousin let out a piercing scream, then tightly hugged my arm, not daring to look up anywhere. I knew she was timid, and it was also because she wanted to accompany me that she forced herself to watch the horror movie. So I kindly patted her arm, coaxing her like when we were young. Thus, I completely didn't see Lu Nhu Yen sitting next to me, wearing an extremely complex expression. After coaxing for a while, my arm was suddenly pulled by someone. I turned my head to look at Lu Nhu Yen, who opened her mouth expressionlessly. She was definitely testing me. The internet says girls like boys who are a bit subtle. Before, I used to cling to her so much, so now she was definitely testing me, wanting to confirm if I was a decent guy. So I just pondered slightly, decisively snatched the air conditioning blanket my cousin was using, and threw it straight at Lu Nhu Yen. Amidst my cousin's piercing screams as background noise, I smiled gently at Lu Nhu Yen. If you're scared, just wrap yourself in the blanket. Actually, I wanted to say a few more words to her, but my cousin was too scared, tremblingly hugging my arm tightly, just short of crying out loud. Helpless, I had to turn my head to coax her, who told me to steal her blanket to flirt with a girl. As a result, before I could coax her for 2 sentences, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly stood up. I still have things to do at home. I'll go back first. She took 2 steps towards the door, then, as if remembering something, immediately turned back to grab my cousin's arm, pulling her out the door. Bok and Gung Bang, my mom said she wants to exchange noodle-making secrets with you. Come over to the shop with me. This movie was truly too scary for my cousin. So without a second thought, she nodded repeatedly, even running faster than Lu Nhu Yen. What a coward. But later, my cousin recounted to me that, after leaving the apartment building, Lu Nhu Yen said she was busy and scheduled to exchange secrets with her another day. My cousin was too scared to go back to my house to watch the rest of the horror movie, thinking that since she was already out of the apartment building, she might as well go back to the noodle shop and continue selling. But the biggest reason she opened this noodle shop was to coax her boyfriend, so she hadn't forgotten her main mission. The next day, she discussed with me that she wanted to go coax him. You have a good relationship with Tiu Hao. Just find some random excuse to trick him into coming downstairs. I will hold flowers and stand here waiting for him. Looking at the message my cousin sent, plus a red envelope service fee of 888 yuan. I didn't hesitate at all. I immediately got up and went to the 7th floor to find Tham Hao. Tham Hao was a very good guy. We had also confided in each other. I understood his thoughts. He argued with Bok and Gung Bang precisely because he felt she was too straightforward. They were obviously lovers about to get married, yet she kept pretending not to understand his hints, causing Tham Hao to even fear he had some incurable disease. Brother Ko and Gon, I'm not saying this to criticize her. I'm just afraid she really is sick and hiding it from me. Even if she is really sick, at worst I'll take her to the hospital for treatment. Tham Hao sighed, then as if remembering something, he stomped his foot in frustration. Bok and Gung Bang is such a fool. Last time I touched her thigh, her face turned as red as a monkey's butt, and she even said doing that is not good. Not good. Could it be that I'm not even allowed to touch my own girlfriend's thigh? If she doesn't coax me properly this time, I absolutely won't forgive her. I expressed my agreement, and also planned to find a chance to talk to my cousin later. I figured she wasn't that stupid and would understand. Just as I was about to go downstairs with Tham Hao, he suddenly said he forgot his phone, and told me to wait in the apartment lobby. After saying that, he ducked into the elevator, not giving me time to react. But I knew the problem of this young couple wasn't big, and there was no need to rush too much. So I just walked out and saw my silly cousin standing and waiting in the lobby. She was holding a bouquet of tulips, which was the flower Tham Hao liked the most. Why hasn't my Tiu Hao come down yet? Tham Hao's family members all called him Hao, so my cousin also often called him Tiu Hao. He forgot his phone. I paused for a moment, deciding to give her a helping hand. Ngung Bang, Tiu Hao isn't really mad at you, but if you still don't understand his mind, then you're really done for. There are some things, at certain times, can we stop playing hard to get a bit? The girl nodded half-understandingly. Then she said, then whatever Tiu Hao says, I'll do. Just at the moment she finished speaking, I saw Lu Nhu Yen walking over from afar. Her face was still cold, walking straight towards my cousin. Tiu Hao, Lu Nhu Yen frowned, looking displeased. Who allowed you to call him that? Only I am allowed to call him that. After speaking, she immediately glanced at me. Because we grew up together since childhood, I knew my cousin was jealous. Although she was silly, she truly loved Tham Hao. I hurriedly smoothed things over. Right. Only you are allowed to call him that. At this, my cousin was finally satisfied. She held the bouquet tightly in her arms, her eyes full of expectation. You want to wait until there's no one around to give this bouquet to Tiu Hao. Blaming me for ruining your good deed. Lu Nhu Yen suddenly spoke up, then looked up at me. That look was a bit complex. I couldn't read it. My cousin nodded without thinking. At a time like this, you definitely can't appear. Don't tell me you have feelings for my Tiu Hao. This time Lu Nhu Yen didn't answer, but looked down at the bouquet of tulips in her arms. She then looked up at me. Tulips are poisonous. Do you know that? I nodded. She said again, therefore, buy less and accept less. This statement sounded weird. I didn't have a girlfriend who would give me flowers. Moreover, just a few flowers like this, outdoors, could it poison me to death? However, after hearing this, my cousin fell into deep thought. Tulips are poisonous, not good for Tiu Hao's health. If there was something else to coax him, it would be great. This child finally figured it out. I hurriedly said, to coax a boy, actually sometimes you don't need external objects. My cousin asked with interest, how so? I pointed at her thigh. For example, if you let him touch your thigh, who knows, he might be happy again. My cousin hesitated a bit, just like that, and it's okay. I nodded continuously. Of course, thighs are good things. No man can resist. Me too, it's just that Lu Nhu Yen is too stingy, only letting me touch twice a week. Just as I was thinking this, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly spoke up. Gone. My mom asks if you want to come to the shop to eat noodles this afternoon. Mom specially fried 2 extra eggs for you and added a chicken drumstick too. Let's go, we're going right now. I immediately pulled Lu Nhu Yen towards the apartment gate. She also didn't resist my touch, obediently following behind me. As for my silly cousin, I had already spoken to that extent just now. If she still couldn't comprehend, then she could stay single forever. Arriving at the noodle shop, Father Lu was very enthusiastic, immediately going into the kitchen to make noodles for me. Lu Nhu Yen, as usual, sat opposite me. She held a book, reading very attentively. Sometimes I also had to lament that my attractiveness to her wasn't even as much as a book. It was truly too much of a failure. Luckily, Father Lu was very fast. Before I could grieve for long, the noodles were brought up. Eating for 3 consecutive months without getting bored, these noodles were truly delicious. I buried my head and slurped down a few big mouthfuls, completely ignoring that Lu Nhu Yen had put down the book in her hand, looking at me with an extremely complex expression. Gone. What's up? It was rare that I was eating noodles without bothering her. Wasn't she used to it? I felt excited by this perverted thought of mine, but I knew very well there was absolutely no such possibility. Lu Nhu Yen tapped her fingers on the table. Only then did I reluctantly look up from the bowl of noodles, only to see her looking at me with a serious face. Will Bang succeed? Succeed in what? Succeed in coaxing her little boyfriend. I nodded decisively. She lowered her eyes, her voice suddenly becoming feather-light, but no emotion could be heard in it. Are you that certain? I put down my chopsticks, beginning to analyze seriously for her. You know Tham Hao's face, quite handsome, and being an athlete, his figure is even more indisputable. I guess just touching the thigh a couple of times, and this matter will be settled. After all, Tham Hao and I are both lecherous, but Lu Nhu Yen was thoughtful, so just touching the thigh once and she will succeed. I nodded again, simultaneously lamenting in my heart. If I touched Lu Nhu Yen's thigh once and could become a couple with her, I would willingly touch it 10, no, 100 times a day. While I was busy lamenting, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly stood up, walked to my side, pulled up her shorts a bit with one hand, grabbed my left hand with the other, and pressed it straight onto her thigh. Well, the feeling of being separated for a week truly made a person's emotions surge. I couldn't resist squeezing twice. Mother, I loved it so much. If she agreed to let me take 2 bites, it would be even more wonderful. While I was daydreaming, Lu Nhu Yen asked again, so if others are also willing to let her touch their thighs, then Bang wouldn't succeed so easily anymore. Right? I still had a lot of faith in my cousin, so while touching the thigh, I analyzed for her. She won't. She will definitely succeed. Their relationship is already good. Touching the thigh is just an appetizer. Waiting until they are deeply in love and do this and that. Wouldn't all the misunderstandings disappear? Tham Hao's problem is just fearing that my cousin has some incurable disease. As long as this point is okay, this deeply in love couple will definitely quickly hold hands and enter the wedding hall. So my cousin will definitely succeed. As a result, right after I finished speaking, she directly flung my hand away. Yes, flung away. The thigh-touching experience was too short-lived. If I could do it again, it would be so great. I sighed, then sorrowfully picked up my chopsticks again, sorrowfully shoving 2 mouthfuls of noodles into my mouth. Don't say it, Father Lu's noodle-making skills have really leveled up recently. So delicious I forgot all my sorrow. Being too absorbed in eating, I didn't clearly hear the sentence Lu Nhu Yen had just said. She asked, does it absolutely have to be this way? I just nodded randomly. She chuckled coldly, then didn't open her mouth anymore. I shoved the remaining noodles into my mouth. After eating, although I still wanted to stay here to admire the beauty, at this moment, I still cared more about the lifelong great event of my cousin. What if the girl really messed it up? I was afraid my aunt and uncle would cry and collapse my house's wall. So after eating and paying, I planned to go home. Just as I was about to leave, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly chased after me, blocking my way, and said a sentence extremely seriously. Okay, wait for me. Wait for what? I didn't understand. So I smiled, nodded, said one word, okay, and then turned my head 3 times for every step on my way home. Facts proved that my cousin could still be molded. That day went straight to the highway. The young couple now had no more misunderstandings, happily discussing the wedding date. When I went to the noodle shop to find her, I saw her smiling foolishly, the look of someone immersed in the net of love, obviously having been in love for several years already. Truly a person with no prospects. Today, Lu Nhu Yen also didn't seem busy, looking like she was taking a stroll in front of the door. Somehow, after walking for a while, she stepped into my cousin's noodle shop. At that time, my cousin was talking to me. Tiu Hao and I are about to have joyful news. Just as I was about to say a word of congratulations, Lu Nhu Yen walked in, frowning and opening her mouth. What joyful news? The silly cousin, after making up with her boyfriend, looked at everyone happily and immediately replied, "Of course it's joyful news with my Tiu Hao." After speaking, she became twisty and shy, ultimately even covering her face, burying it on the table and smiling foolishly. This appearance was truly unbearable to watch. On Lu Nhu Yen's face, there was still no expression. She just said one sentence. Before getting married, everything has variables, and accidents are many. What if in the end he meets someone better? Then he won't need you anymore. These words were like a spark igniting a fuse. My cousin immediately stood up to oppose, saying seriously, "Lu Nhu Yen, what nonsense are you talking about? What do you mean by meeting someone better and not needing me anymore? I am very good. You know, Tiu Hao personally praised me. You know, mother, a girl falling in love is truly unbearable to watch." I covered my face and silently lowered my head. Therefore, I completely didn't see Lu Nhu Yen's heartbroken look at that time. I only knew that when I looked up. She had already left. It wasn't dark yet, but she was anxious to close the shop. So I, as usual, went to Lu Nhu Yen's family's noodle shop. She didn't seem to be present, so I didn't dawdle while eating noodles, going at a normal speed. After eating, I prepared to leave. As a result, right after stepping out the door, Lu Nhu Yen called out to me, "Cohen, it's getting dark. My dad told me to take you home." Well, my future father-in-law was too good. I nodded continuously, then walked shoulder to shoulder with her home. This road had obviously been walked countless times, but for some reason this time, I felt pink bubbles popping up all along the way. However, Lu Nhu Yen was still Lu Nhu Yen, along the way still rarely striking up a conversation with me. Until she brought me upstairs to the door of my house. I thought she would just leave straight away. As a result, she said, "Since we're already here, why not watch a horror movie?" This affection was too good. At that time, I immediately went to look for a movie. She sat on the sofa, looking thoughtful. "What's wrong?" She frowned and asked extremely seriously, "Not drinking some wine?" This wasn't good. I shook my head without thinking. What if I got drunk, coveted her beauty on the spot, and pinned her down? Then what? So I immediately stood up to get wine. Not only did I get beer, but I also got white wine. Originally, I was worried she would be angry, but as a result, she just took one look and signaled for me to pour the wine. I didn't dare to pour too much, afraid her alcohol tolerance wasn't. When the time comes, getting dead drunk after one glass, lifting wouldn't even be possible. Controlling the alcohol intake, I began my brilliant acting again. As soon as the horror movie started, I used all kinds of screaming sounds, ouch, and then conveniently fell into her arms. I don't know why, but I feel like today's horror movie is especially scary, so I couldn't help but dive into your arms. You won't be mad, right? Oh my God, leaning against Lu Nhu Yen's chest, my right hand conveniently stroking her thigh. It was truly too satisfying, but I also didn't dare to go too far. I only dared to try a little bit at a time. Seeing she didn't resist, I put both hands on and squeezed hard. So elastic, she still didn't say anything, so I acted recklessly. After all, I had drunk alcohol. At this moment, I just wanted to do something a bit more out of line. I looked up. Hearing the sound, she also looked down. Like that, our lips were less than 5 centimeters apart. If I could kiss them, I truly wouldn't dare to think about it. Actually, I forgot. Was it me being proactive or her being proactive? But I thought Lu Nhu Yen was the cold goddess type. Definitely wouldn't do something proactive like asking for a kiss. 8 or 9 times out of 10, the alcohol went to my head, so I kissed her lips. How should I describe it? Sky thunder striking earth fire. Kissing, then rolling around, then taking off clothes, and also having a great time. It turned out that this matter was completely different from what the novels described. This was my first time, but I wasn't clumsy at all, nor was I running out of money before reaching the market, as people often rumored. Perhaps due to my good physical fitness, I didn't think much more. After all, at this moment, enjoying the ultimate pleasure was the most important thing. Finally, I just want to say, she was indeed top tier everywhere. After a wild night, I woke up and thought of looking for words to describe it. Who said this feeling was too wonderful? Having experienced it only 3 times, how could that be enough? But before I could start acting, Lu Nhu Yen spoke first. You have to take responsibility for me. Huh? Take responsibility? I couldn't help but look up at the ceiling. What was going on? Since when did meat buns fall from the sky like this? Or was smoke coming out of my ancestors' graves? I planned to call my grandparents later, telling them to go to the mountain behind to see if the ancestral grave was really smoking. As for now, I definitely nodded decisively. Don't worry, I will definitely take responsibility for you. Hearing that, the corners of her lips curled into a faint smile. Then, as if remembering something, Gone, so are you still planning to continue with Bok and Gung Bang? Did she know I planned to help my cousin propose to Tham Hao today? Probably the apartment courtyard downstairs had been completely decorated. I almost forgot, so I immediately jumped up, hurriedly putting on my clothes. What's wrong? I answered while getting dressed. She's preparing to propose downstairs today. I almost completely forgot about this. I have to go over there right now. Just as I finished speaking, Lu Nhu Yen, who was sitting on the bed, also stepped down. Then she grabbed my wrist, her expression restrained. You just finished doing that with me, and now you're going to see Bok and Gung Bang. I was completely confused. Did these two things have any relation to each other? You don't feel it's related? She chuckled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes, looking quite scary, but I still nodded. They originally had nothing to do with each other. My matter with you is our matter, and my going with her today has nothing to do with it. Hearing me say that, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly let go of the hand holding me. She looked deeply at me. Gone, you're quite something. After speaking, she turned her back and walked straight away. I stood stunned in place for a long time, then started to look up to the sky and scream, F***CK, you scum, how dare you sleep with me, and then run away. Boo-hoo-hoo, I still wanted to sleep some more, but God didn't hear my prayer. Also, a barrage of phone calls from my silly cousin forced me to temporarily put aside the matter with Lu Nhu Yen and go help her finish today's proposal ceremony first. I changed my clothes and went downstairs, following the previous plan to text Tham Hao, telling him I planned to go window shopping with him today and incidentally help a friend catch a mistress. Whoever understands. Catching a mistress, even if it's just watching the drama, must have an imposing presence. After finishing this, I went straight downstairs. The apartment complex had been decorated, with pink balloons everywhere. There was still some time left before the ceremony started. Later, I still had to lead the way, bringing Tham Hao to my cousin. Therefore, I was walking along this path to familiarize myself with the process, when suddenly a hand grabbed my arm, pulling me behind a large tree. Lu Nhu Yen saw clearly the person arriving. I'll handle this person a bit. She grabbed my hand again, her eyes shining with a pleading look. Don't go, okay? I shook my head. Today's matter is very important. I cannot not be present. She lowered her eyes, holding my hand even tighter. Okay, I can accept you having 2 people, but I must be the main wife. On the marriage registration paper, only my name is allowed to be written. On the marriage registration paper, of course only her name would be written. I wished for nothing more. Wait, what did she mean by must be the main wife? Did I also have concubines? Seeing me hesitate and not speak, Lu Nhu Yen suddenly reached out and hugged me into her arms, her voice extremely aggrieved. At first, you stubbornly teased me, demanded to know my name, wanted to know all my information, and every day said those cheesy, rustic pickup lines for me to hear. 1, 2, this was simply because I had no experience, so I planned to go online to learn. As a result, taking a detour clearly, but I also didn't know why. Obviously, those pickup lines were really very cheesy, but my heart kept beating wildly. Then I didn't dare to look at you either. I was afraid you'd see my face turn red because of you. So, she had loved me for a long time. That time you were almost bullied. I was really angry and also very scared. At that time, I realized I really liked you. However, you heartless guy, I was afraid that once you had me, you wouldn't know how to cherish me. So I only let you touch my thigh twice a week. This is a perk that others beg for but can't get. That was indeed true. Others ate noodles and got free side dishes. I ate noodles and got to touch thighs. A huge profit. Later when Bok and Gung Bang appeared, I admit she also has thighs, but definitely not as nice to touch as mine. As for other skills, I will learn and research, ensuring I'm more formidable than her. No, what was there for the 2 of you to compare? So Gone, today please don't accept her proposal. Okay, even if you accept, you must accept me first. She can only be a concubine. Lu Nhu Yen felt more aggrieved the more she spoke. With great difficulty, it was the first time she had feelings for a guy, only to find out the other party was a plebe. She really wanted to cry, but she had to hold it in. Otherwise, she was afraid that heartless Ko and Gon would criticize her for not being as gentle and feminine as Bok and Gung Bang. As for me, after hearing such a long speech, I suddenly realized a problem. Just as I was about to open my mouth to explain, the proposal scene not far away suddenly erupted into thunderous applause. I and Lu Nhu Yen simultaneously looked over without prior agreement. We immediately saw Bok and Gung Bang and Tham how passionately kissing each other. Lu Nhu Yen widened her eyes in disbelief. As for me, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then I spoke up to explain to her. Lu Nhu Yen, tell me, is there any possibility that Bok and Gung Bang is actually my cousin? The blood-related kind. So the proposal I talked about was her proposing to another man. What else could it be? I hugged her waist, lowered my head, and gently kissed those lips. Because I only like you alone. Love at first sight, never changing my mind. A morning of the little husband. After that night of sky thunder striking earth fire, Ko and Gon's position in the Lu family's noodle shop had changed dramatically. He was no longer a simple, regular customer, but officially became the trainee son-in-law, pampered to the extreme by Auntie Lu. Every morning, instead of having to go downstairs and queue, Ko and Gon just had to open his door to see a bowl of piping hot noodles with 2 heart-shaped fried eggs placed ready on the shoe rack. Accompanied by it was a small note with Nhu Yen's slender handwriting. After eating, come down to the shop to help me. Forbidden to look at other people's thighs. Ko and Gon ate while chuckling. Who would have thought that the once cold goddess was now a great jealous vinegar jar? 2 antics of the little boss. At the noodle shop, Lu Nhu Yen still maintained her cold expression as before, but her eyes were always glued to Ko and Gon's busy figure serving. One day, a few young female students came in to eat noodles. They kept chirping and praising the handsome waiter, and even intended to ask for his social media account. Ko and Gon was scratching his head, smiling awkwardly when Lu Nhu Yen stepped out from the kitchen, holding her familiar rolling pin in her hand. She didn't say a word, just walked up beside Ko and Gon, casually lifted his leg, placed it on the stool next to them, and started massaging his calf right in front of everyone. Are you tired? Let me massage it for you. We can continue later when we get home tonight. The female students blushed profusely, hurriedly paid, and ran away. Ko and Gon didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yen, if you do that, I'll lose my lifespan. Look at them. Nhu Yen raised an eye, her peach blossom eyes blinking slightly. Why, are you complaining that my thighs aren't as soft as theirs? No, your thighs are the most top tier in the world. Ko and Gon hurriedly flattered her, conveniently trying to touch it once, but was lightly tapped on the back of his hand by her rolling pin. Working now. Tonight when we get home, you can touch it 10 times. 3 double weddings and the shocking truth. On the day Bok and Gung Bang and Tham Hao held their wedding, Ko and Gon and Lu Nhu Yen naturally served as the groomsman and bridesmaid. While waiting for the ceremony, Tham Hao pulled Ko and Gon into a corner with a highly mysterious look. Brother Ko, I heard Ngung Bang say that previously sister Nhu Yen thought you and Ngung Bang were a couple, so she was incredibly jealous. Ko and Gon nodded and sighed. Of course, she almost forced me to sign a commitment paper letting Ngung Bang be a concubine. The 2 brothers were laughing uncontrollably when Lu Nhu Yen stepped up from behind, wearing an emerald green bridesmaid dress that hugged her body curves. Looking breathtakingly seductive, she looked at Tham Hao coldly and dropped a sentence. You should stop teaching him bad things. Next time if you invite him to catch a mistress, but let him dress up so elaborately like going to a party. I'll tell my mom to feed you noodles with only chili. Tham Hao shivered and hurriedly dragged the bride away. 4 promises under the moonlight. That night on the balcony of Ko and Gon's house, the night breeze blew gently, carrying the scent of osmanthus flowers. Lu Nhu Yen rested her head on Ko and Gon's shoulder, her slender legs resting naturally on his thighs. Ko and Gon, do you regret it? Because you ate noodles at my house for 3 months, only to be tied down by me for a lifetime. Ko and Gon turned around, hugged her tightly in his arms, and placed a kiss on her forehead. I do regret it. Regret why I didn't eat noodles at your house 3 years ago, so I could touch your thighs sooner. Nhu Yen laughed out loud, a rare smile as radiant as spring sunshine. She whispered into his ear, then from now on, your daily perk will increase to once a day. Deal? Only once. I think it should be at least 3 times, just like the 3 portions of noodles that day. The young couple's laughter faded into the night. In the quiet apartment complex, the specialty noodle shop still kept its fire burning, a testament to a love that started with a hot bowl of noodles and ended with a sweet home.